What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be featuring Tellarknights, but before I begin, if you could happen to click on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons, it would be greatly appreciated, as it goes a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. Clicking on those notification bells would also mean a lot, as they notify you when I upload on the channel. So for this first combo, we're going to start with Sheraton, which is what I believe one of the better normal summons in the deck, and we'll use its effect in order to get ourselves the Caduceus. From here, we can use the effect of Caduceus in order to special summon itself out, and then we'll use the effect on field in order to get ourselves a Constellar Speller Trap card. And the first new card that you'll see here is Tellarknight Constellar, a continuous spell that reads when this card is activated, you can special summon one Tellarknight or Constellar monster from your hand or graveyard. You can target one Tellarknight or Constellar Exceed monster you control, special summon from your extra deck one Tellarknight or Constellar Exceed monster with a different rank from that monster you control. By using it as material, this is treated as an Exceed summon, transfer its materials to the summon monster. You can only use this effect of Tellarknight Constellar once per turn, and you can only activate one Tellarknight Constellar per turn. So a card that enables a lot of different crazy stuff. If you happen to watch my Super Heavy Samurai video, the last combo on that video happened to be an FTK featuring this card, but we're then going to be able to go into our IP Masquerena, as we'll activate the Tellarknight Constellar in order to get ourselves back our Constellar Sheraton, since it has a higher defense, and this will give us a one card Nightmare Unicorn with the discard being whatever other discard you have. While it's not a super heavy samurai combo that happens to make a full board of monsters, this is more of a mid-range deck, which gives you this as an end board with the rest of your hand to play with. For the second combo, and these are the two best normal summons in the deck in my opinion, with Unu and the Sheraton, and we're going to start this one by normal summoning the Sheraton. We'll be able to get ourselves the Caduceus, and then from here we can special summon out the Caduceus, and this will give us the ability to get ourselves the Tellarknight Constellar. From here we'll be able to activate the Tellarknight Constellar, special summon out the Unu, and the Unu will now be able to send another new card, Tellarknight Altea, and this one reads that this card is always treated as a Constellar card. If this card is summoned, you can target cards on the field up to the number of light and dark Exceed monsters you control, destroy them. If a Tellarknight and or Constellar monsters other than Tellarknight Altea is special summoned to your field, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. Also, you cannot declare an attack for the rest of this turn except with Exceed monsters. You can only use each effect of Altea once per turn. So a form of extending along with disruption that you have in this card, which is great in my opinion. It does lock you into just attacking with Exceed monsters, but that doesn't really matter in an archetype that focuses on Exceed monsters. But we're then going to be able to go into our other new card here, Tellarknight Constellar Caduceus, and this one takes 2+ level 4 monsters, so it's generic, and also another card that enables the FTK that you'll see how it kind of gets there later in the video. But if you watch the Super Heavy Samurai video, the whole FTK is on that last combo there. But it reads, if this card is Exceed summoned, you can target one Tellarknight card and or one Constellar card in your graveyard, add them to your hand. You can banish one Tellarknight or Constellar monster from your hand or deck, then detach one material from this card. This effect becomes that banished monster's activated effect when that monster is normal summoned. You can only use each effect of Tellarknight Constellar Caduceus once per turn. So it basically copies the effects of Tellarknights when you normal summon them, but we're going to then be able to trigger the Altea in our graveyard, bringing that back, as we're then going to use the Caduceus, banishing our Lyra to copy its effect. And this is another new card that reads, this card is always treated as a Constellar card. If a Tellarknight and or Constellar monster other than Tellarknight Lyra is normal summoned to your field, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is summoned, you can add one Tellarknight spell from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Lyra once per turn. So another great form of support in my opinion, as it's basically two extenders when you think about it, as you're able to special summon it out potentially if you draw it and normal summon another Constellar or Tellarknight monster, but then it gets you either into your Tellarknight Constellar or your Skybridge. But we're then going to be able to get our Skybridge now, as we'll activate it, putting back the Altea in our deck, and then we'll bring out the Altair, as we're then going to use the Altair to bring back the Unu, and then from here we can go into our Ptolemaeus, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar and go into our Pleiades. The Pleiades will then be able to use its effect, bouncing back to Sheraton to give us follow-up, and from here we can end our turn on just this. Again, I know it doesn't look too great, but you have to consider that it's still a mid-range deck. The more you have in your hand, the more you can do. For this next combo, I'll be doing the turn skip combo, and this just takes the Neb plus Lyra, And we're going to start this one by normal summoning the Deneb, which will trigger the Lyra in our hand. From here we can then get ourselves 2 searches, as we'll be able to get the search off Deneb for the Unu, and we'll also be able to get the search from the Lyra for the Skybridge. From here we'll be able to go into our Caduceus, as we'll use its effect, which will banish the Constellar Sheridan, and we'll be able to get ourselves the Constellar Caduceus. From here we'll be able to special summon out the Caduceus with its effect, as we'll use its effect in order to get ourselves the search for the Constellar Tellarknight, and then from here we'll be able to activate the continuous spell, as we'll special summon out the Unu, use its effect, which will send the Altea to the graveyard. We'll activate the Skybridge, as it'll put back the Caduceus, bring out the Altair, and then from here we can get ourselves 2 special summons, one off the Altair and another off the Altea in the graveyard, and this will give us 5 materials for our Caduceus. From here we'll be able to get back our 2 Tellarknight cards that we have in the graveyard, giving us follow-up, which is also insane, but we'll be able to get ourselves the M7, use the effect of the continuous spell to go into our Ptolemaeus, and now because we have 7 materials, we can use the effect of Ptolemaeus, which will effectively skip our opponent's turn, and give us the follow-up needed to potentially OTK them. So for this third combo here, and I want you to ignore the 3 Skullmeisters, this is an old combo that I did that I'm reusing because it's still relevant to this video, so I'm going to start with the Constellar Sheraton, as we're then going to get ourselves the search, as we can also trigger the Lyra in our hand to special summon it, as we'll get ourselves the Caduceus along with another search via the Lyra, and this will get ourselves the Skybridge. From here we'll use the Caduceus in order to bring itself out, then use its on-field effect, getting ourselves the continuous spell, and then from here we can activate the Skybridge, putting back the Lyra into our deck to get ourselves Deneb. Now we can use the Deneb's effect in order to net ourselves a search for the Altair, and then from here we can go into our Caduceus, use its effect in order to get ourselves back the Skybridge. We'll use the Caduceus, banishing the Unu. From here we can then send the Altea to our graveyard, as we copied the effect of Unu, activate the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar to bring out the Altair. Altair will then bring back the Deneb, as we can also trigger the Altea to bring back all our bodies really, as we'll then be able to go into Ptolemaeus, then go into IP Masquerena, and from here we can set the Skybridge, which is also nice, but we'll also go into our Pleiades or Diamond, depending on what you want to go into, as we can then end our turn. And I would like to point out that when you end on the Tellarknight Skybridge, you do have the ability to play around Dark Ruler. For this next combo, we're going to start with Unu plus Lyra, as we've already seen the Sheraton stuff, but we're going to start by normal summoning the Unu, triggering the Lyra, get ourselves a send along with a search, as we're going to send the Deneb, and add ourselves the copy of Skybridge. From here we can activate the Skybridge, put the Lyra back into our deck, as we'll special summon out the Altair, and now we're going to get a bit of a high school reunion with the Deneb on board, giving us 3 OG Tellarknights, but we'll then be able to use the Deneb in order to spoil that reunion to get ourselves the Altea, and then from here we'll go into our Caduceus, use the effect of Caduceus to get back the Skybridge. We can then use the other effect of Caduceus, banishing the Sheraton and detaching the Deneb in order to get ourselves the search for the Caduceus. We'll then use the Caduceus effect in order to special summon itself out, use its on-field effect in order to get the Tellarknight Constellar, and then from here we can use the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar in order to bring out Altea, and this will give us access into a 3-material Ptolemaeus, but we're first going to use the Tellarknight Constellar to bring out the Ptolemaeus or the Pleiades, and then we'll go into our Ptolemaeus, setting the Skybridge, and ending our turn on that. For these next few combos, I want to show some Photon Thrasher combos, and this one will start with Photon Thrasher plus any Tellarknight, and we're going to start this one by special summoning out the Thrasher, normal summon our Vega, go into our Caduceus, use the effect of Caduceus, which will banish the Sheraton, detach the Vega, get ourselves the Caduceus. Caduceus can then special summon itself out with its effect, use its on-field effect, which will get us a search. With the Tellarknight Constellar now in hand, we can activate it in order to get back the Vega from our graveyard, and from here we'll go into our Ptolemaeus, use the effect of the continuous spell in order to go into our Pleiades or Diamond, and then from here we can go into the end phase, get another material for the Ptolemaeus, and give ourselves the 2 disruptions for our opponent's turn. Now for the next one we have Photon Thrasher plus Deneb, and this is basically similar to the last 2, but we do get a search off the Deneb, as we're going to get ourselves the Lyra, go into our Caduceus. From here we can use the Caduceus, sending the Vega or banishing the Vega in order to bring out the Lyra, and then from here we can use the Lyra in order to get ourselves the Tellarknight Constellar, and then from here we'll activate the Tellarknight Constellar in order to bring back the Deneb, as we'll go into our Ptolemaeus, use the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar to make the Caduceus a rank rank 5, as we're then going to be able to end our turn just on that. Now, for the quote-unquote final Photon Thrasher combo, and this one is going to be with Lyra and a discard, as we're going to be able to normal summon the Lyra, get its effect, which will get ourselves the Tellarknight Constellar. We'll go into our Caduceus. From here, we'll use the Caduceus, banishing the Unu, detaching the Lyra, as we'll send the Altea, and then from here, we'll use the Tellarknight Constellar to bring back the Lyra. This will trigger the Altea, and get ourselves another level 4, as we'll then be able to link away into our IP Masquerena. We can then go into a M7, as we'll then use the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar in order to go into the Ptolemaeus, basically rounding out our end board. So obviously, you can go into another rank 4 if you don't want to go into IP Masquerena, but I just wanted to show this as an option. And I know that I'm kind of saying this late in the video, but you'll notice that I'm not using Isolde either, and I just don't like Isolde in this deck, as it's more of a wombo combo card that requires you to play the extra garnets, and you're kind of playing hard into stuff like Ghost Ogre and Imperm this format with the Appaloosa, and so much investment for a mid-range style deck. I don't think it's worth it. I think that the low resource investment for IP Masquerena that can just get you into other disruptions is a lot better, especially when you consider that you have extra disruptions through stuff like Altea in the graveyard that trigger when you use the Tellarknight Ptolemaeus in order to go into something like Pleiades or Diamond. Now, for this next one, and I want to show off something else because, again, it's something that I didn't show in the combos, and you may not play every hand this way, but it's still worth showing because it's something that you can do with the deck. We're going to get our effects to search off of the Sheraton and the Lyra, so we'll get ourselves the Caduceus and use the Lyra here, as we'll get the Sky Bridge. From here, we can activate the Caduceus from our hand. We'll then get ourselves the Caduceus Search, which will get ourselves the other copy of Tellarknight Constellar. From here, we can then activate the Sky Bridge, put back the Lyra in our deck. We're going to bring back the Neb, and then from here, we can activate the Neb, as we'll get ourselves a search for the Unu, and then from here, we'll go into the Constellar Deltaros, as we'll then be able to use the Deltaros popping itself, and then from here, we'll be able to trigger the Deltaros in order to bring out the Altair from our deck, then use the Altair to bring back the Deltaros, and then from here, we can use the Constellar Tellarknight in order to special summon out our Unu, and then from here, we'll use the Unu in order to send the Altea, and then from here, we'll go into our Caduceus, use the effect of Caduceus to get back some of our cards here, as we'll also trigger the Altea, and then from here, we'll be able to go into an IP Masquerena. We'll then use the effect of the Tellarknight Constellar to go into our rank 5, as you can go into Pleiades or Diamond, whichever you want. We'll then set the Sky Bridge, and this will basically end up being our end board. Now, for the final combo that I want to show, and this isn't really a combo, it's just how you enable some of the stuff that I was talking about, and this takes any 2 level 4s, as you saw Caduceus is a generic rank 4, so we're going to hop straight into it, as we're going to use its effect, banishing the Lyra. So it is important to note that you will have to play a Garnet in your deck in order to access this, as you'll also have to play the Tellarknight Constellar, as we're then going to go into the M7, activate the Tellarknight Constellar. From there, we can use the M7 to go into our Ptolemaeus, and then from here, we'll use the Ptolemaeus, which will get us access into a rank 5, as we're going to go into the River Stormer. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do here, but just for this, I'm going to get ourselves the Bike, and then from here, we can use the Bike's effect in order to get ourselves the Waka Flocka. The Waka Flocka in hand, you can combo, but another thing that you could do is just get yourself a Regulus, be able to go into Goliath and special summon out the Regulus. It depends on what you're playing, but it's just something that I wanted to show. So with all of the combos out of the way, we can finally get onto the deck profile, and the first card that you may notice here is Constellar Zubin, and this is basically another Sheraton that you can either summon off your Tellarknight Constellar or copy the effect via Caduceus by banishing it, and it's something that you don't need to play, but I do want to cover it as an option, which is why it's here. We then also have the Altea, which is just your Disruption, a great card in my opinion that you could play two of if you wanted to, especially with Kashtira running around. But I really want to get onto the options here with Prosperity. You may notice that I do play the 3 Caduceus with the Zubin, and something that you definitely can do is that you can take out the 2 Caduceus along with the Zubin in order to fit in the 3 Prosperity, or you can just play more going second cards. But the other one is Isolde, and as I explained earlier, I do like the mid-range aspect of this deck. I don't want to turn it into a heavier combo deck. As you see, this deck already kind of plays hard into Nib. The follow-up that you can get off of it is kind of nice, but it's not necessary, and I don't like the idea of playing all the equips too, so that's why I don't have it there. The Infinity and the Nova are just other things that you can rank up via the Tellarknight Constellar, but I don't think it's worth it. It just plays harder into Dark Ruler while also committing the extra deck space. The ZW Dragonic Halberd and the Zexal Force are just here because in case we do get something that we can go into that's legitimate off of this, then I think it's just worth mentioning. Then the River Stormer, as seen previously, you can search either the Waka or you can get yourself the Regulus, go into your Goliath, and just get yourself into Regulus that way. The Starry Knight is another card that I think we're getting in this set. I'll read it anyways, I'm not sure if we are, but it takes 2 level 4 monsters, and you can detach 1 material from this card, special summon 1 light monster from your hand, and if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can target 1 level 4 light fairy monster you control, special summon this card, and if you do, attach the targeted monster to this card as material. You can only use each effect of Starry Knight once per turn. So an interesting card, but the only thing that I don't like about it is that it's not an end board card, and that's something that I feel this deck is lacking, where you have stuff like Trigger that's a going second card, same thing with Deltaro, which you can do going first plays as you saw previously, but it's just not something that you're going to consistently do. And the M7 is just another card that you want to play that isn't an end board card that can just get you into other combos, and your 3 real end board exceeds are just Pleiades, the Diamond, which is matchup situational, and the Durandal, which is kind of nice, but again it plays into Dark Ruler. Batlamias is something else that I took out, and it's because there's no point of turning everything else into Dark this format. I just don't see what's the worth of it. Ptolemaeus basically does what it wants to do, but better without having the need to get 7 materials for it. Then we do have the Dweller along with the Bagu, which are other options that you can play, and this does sort of fix some of the going first stuff, but it depends on what you want to take out. The Stellar Nova is something that I don't think we'll see play until we have a better way to search this and end on it turn 1 that doesn't alter what you do in your combo, so that's why you don't see it in the deck. And then the Gozen is something that I would like to talk about, as I feel like this is a strong card this format, where we have stuff like Purely, which needs to go into their Exceed monsters, which happen to be different attributes from Lily and the Eevee, and that can just kind of halt their turn if they don't have an out for that. Then there's also the super heavy deck, which Bike is an earth, Waka is a dark, so there's obvious conflictions there, especially with Axel being a win, and just little things like that. But outside of that, I don't think that there's too much else I need to say that I didn't cover in the deck profile, because everything was kind of straightforward in my opinion. You're just really going into your Ptolemaeus, plus hopefully another Exceed, and maybe even the IP, paired with some going second cards that you can also use going first, as far as the Ghost Ogres, Drolls, and the Imperfect. So anyways, I'll get onto the card by card. We have the 1 Zubin, the 1 Altea, the 1 Called By, the 1 Rhoda,